I request Sutapa Didi to start singing a song on Swamiji, and subsequently I will introduce Mani Lakshmi Didi for the people who are attending it.
मूर्तमहेश्वरमुज्ज्वलभास्करमीष्टममर नरवन्द्यम् मूर्तमहेश्वरमुज्ज्वलभास्कर इष्टममर नरवन्द्यम् वन्दे वेदतनुमुञ्जितगर्हित काञ्चनकामिनि वन्दम् मूर्तमहेश्वरमुज्ज्वलभास्कर इष्टममर नरवन्द्यम् कोटिभानुकरदीप्तसिंहमहो कटितटकौपिनवन्तम् अभिरभिहुङ्करनादितदिम्मुख प्रचण्डताण्डवनृत्यम् मूर्तमहेश्वरमुज्ज्वलभास्कर इष्टममर नरवन्द्यम् भुक्तिमुक्तिकृपाय कटाक्ष प्रेक्षणं मगदलविदलनदक्षम् बालचन्द्रधरमिन्दुवन्द्यमिह नौमि गुरुविवेकानन्दम् मूर्तमहेश्वरमुज्ज्वलभास्करमिष्टममर नरवन्द्यम् मूर्तमहेश्वरमुज्ज्वलभास्कर इष्टममर नरवन्द्यम्
ആദരണീയ ലക്ഷ്മി ദീദി കുറിച്ച് പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തേണ്ട ആവശ്യമില്ല. ആനാലും the new members who are there, just for their information sake, Dr. M. Lakshmi Kumari was the president of Vivekananda Kendra, Kanyakumari for 16 long years. After completing the Vivekananda Bharata Parikrama, she stepped down from the chair of the president, allowing the younger generation to take over the reins of the Kendra. Presently, she is stationed at Kerala in a place called Kodungalur, the place where Swami Vivekananda visited, and the only place where he could find the women talking to Swamiji in Sanskrit. So here Vivekananda Kendra Vedic Vision Foundation is the name of the organization for which for the last 22 years she has been guiding all the activities of the organization and guiding the people who are interested, who want to understand Swamiji, about our Indian culture, Sanatana Dharma, or so many other aspects. So this online Swadhyaya classes she will be guiding along with a host of other Matajis or Swamijis and the distinguished speakers. They all will be helping us to understand the Swamiji in the real perspective. Basically, we have been seeing for the last few years, everybody knows Vivekananda's name, but none of the people know in depth At best, they say that we know September 11th, Swamiji spoke, or he was born in Calcutta. Many of the, especially the younger generation, and the idea is, though the group may be very small, but still understand the teachings of Swamiji in the right perspective, assimilate those ideas, and how we can become the ambassadors of Swamiji. Swamiji said, "Give me few men who are selfless and dedicated, I shall shake the world." Though Swamiji's name is going all over the world, so even after so many years, we keep reading and understanding, taking the inspiration from Swamiji's words. And to put an extra effort to go into the deeper meaning of Swamiji's thoughts. That is the purpose of this online Swadhyaya class. We wish to have it every week on Saturday, or depending upon the availability of the time of the speakers, and according to the convenience of all the people who are interested people, we would like to have their timing also in the group. All of you can post it. Accordingly, we will try to arrange in a time which is suitable to every one of us, and then let us come together and try to understand, imbibe the spirit of Swamiji, so that we become real ambassadors of Swamiji. So to start with, today Mani Lakshmi Devi will be speaking about the concept, how she got this idea of Love India, and the followed up the thoughts which have been passing through her mind. She'll be sharing her thoughts, and after her, she may be speaking about 15-20 minutes. Then afterwards, if there is any questions are there, she will answer it, or you can post the questions in the WhatsApp group, and we will take it up on the next session, or if possible, time is there, we will take them into this session itself. So I request Mani Lakshmi Devi to speak and start inaugurate this online Swadhyaya class, so that we move forward in this venture or the journey of inward pilgrimage.
ब्रह्मचर्य व्रती दंडी सर्ववेदांत पंडित श्रीमद्विवेक योगी मां प्रचोदयतु सर्वदा. My pranams to all those who are taking part in this brief discussion. I feel we have started a new discovery channel, a channel to discover Swami Vivekananda, to fill up the gaps in our understanding of Swamiji, how we can imbibe more of the strength and vigor of Swamiji, his love for the country and its people, his great admiration for the spiritual heritage of India, and how important it is for the world to imbibe those ideas to create a new world order, so that we all live here in peace, harmony, and happiness. So with this thought, we started that Love India series, 108 clippings in English, and similarly 108 clippings in Malayalam. It was well received, people liked it, and then we thought, if people are there to hear more about it, why not we go in depth? So in-depth study demands that we put in the understandings of many people, not just one person. So we have invited quite a few to air their thoughts as well. So today it is my turn to start speaking of Swamiji. So when I started thinking in this direction, my thoughts went back to 1980s when I first joined Vivekananda Kendra. And in the very first birthday celebration of Swamiji, I had written a major article on Swamiji for the first time. So I read through and I found it was quite good for an introductory note. So I have picked up some of those ideas and then present them to you. I'm sure you would also find them not only interesting but energizing as well. So, in that connection, in that paper, I had quoted one para from the great author, philosopher Romarola, who has written the biographies of Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji. So, in the book on Swamiji, in the describing the last cremation ceremony of Swamiji, he has written a very meaningful observation. He writes, but the flame of that fire is still alive today. From his ashes, like those of the phoenix of old, has sprung anew the conscience of India, the magic bird, faith in her unity and in the great message brooded over from Vedic times by the dreaming spirit of his ancient race. The note, the last observation, the message for which it must render account to the rest of the mankind. So, Romarola feels that Swamiji's message is not to be just kept in books or muds, but it has a great role to play in elevating the whole of mankind to a better level of harmony and understanding. Or in a way we can say, sort of spiritualization of the whole of humanity. Possibly, only that is the way in which we can bring unity and harmony. So, we all know about the birth details of Swamiji. So, without going into much detail, what was the importance of Swamiji? Now we are going to have the 157th birthday celebrations. So we will just recollect what exactly happened on that auspicious Makara Sankranti day in 1863. There was born Narendranath Datta, a veritable fireball of knowledge and renunciation from his very childhood, who later, under the benign influence of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, got metamorphosed into the great Swami Vivekananda, foremost among India's patriots, saints and philosophers, a true master, mentor and molder and maker of India's destiny. Now, as we say, more than 157 years have passed since that flame which drew people to him like a magnet extinguished itself. Yet the sparks therefrom continue to set aflame the hearts of thousands with fiery ideals of renunciation, dedication, and love for motherland, spreading blazing trails of ideas. That is what, when he was born, nobody would have recognized. But later, sometimes I used to write about him as Vishwabhanu. He was like a sun taking birth in the Datta family. Like a sun spreading its shine on all over. So that is how this child born in the Datta family started spreading his light on the whole of India and the world at large. So that is what we have to consider first, because we find these days many of those so-called writers, modern writers, ignoring the multidimensional faculties of Swamiji and trying to belittle him in every possible way. So, we have to be very clear in our mind, where do we put him? But for him, India would have by now lost forever her chance to revive the truth, beauty, and vitality of her ancient culture and civilization, the oldest in the world. And an average Indian would have been swept away by the cyclone of westernization that was raging over the country. But for him, the world would not have understood the meaning and import of the advent of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, which was to demonstrate, see, Sri Ramakrishna had his own message, which has come through Swamiji only, which was to demonstrate the compatibility of the ancient wisdom of the Upanishad with the scientific and technological civilization of the modern world, and proclaim the immutability and all-time validity of the ultimate truth. Satyameva jayate. Satyasya satyam. Satyam param dhimahi. The core of not only Hinduism, that is important. This ultimate truth, the Swamiji who upheld it before the world, is the truth of all religions. The truth which the rishis of Sanatana Dharma tradition discovered was not to be kept in a bottle within India or in the forest or ashramas of India. Srindavantu Vishwe, Mritasya Putraha, Aye Dhamani Divyani Tastu, Vedaha Madhyam Purusham Mahanda, Aditya Varnam Tamasap Karasta, Tameva Viditva Atimrityumedi, Nanya Pantha Vidyade Ayanaya. So this is the truth of not only Hinduism, but of all religions and philosophies. Sri Ramakrishna is the only avatara or a great saint who experimented with all the different major religions and found out the ultimate truth. They are all, what they have discovered is one and the same. Swamiji also imbibed the great humanism and the truly universal spirit of his Guru, and showed us a new path to establish harmony among the warring sections of humanity. See, that is the crux of the problem. Every section has its own way of defining truth, approaching truth. Not only that, fighting with others that theirs is the only way. So, in such a confusion, Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji brought so much of light and understanding. So, whenever we read Swamiji and Sri Ramakrishna, our minds should be centered on the truth of the realization and how they try to absorb or bring the light of truth to the understanding of every other teacher, every other philosophy, so that we don't quarrel in the name of religion. In modern times, he was the first to proclaim to the West, standing on a Western platform, the highest truths of Vedanta, which recognize man himself as the God. See the courage of this person who could stand in the Chicago Parliament and proclaim to the world the truth that each soul is potentially divine. Recognize man himself as God, thus truly transcending barriers of caste, creed, religion, and whatnot. In a moment, the world understood India, and the flag of eternal Dharma was unfurled in the West. The first sign of India's renaissance showed itself in the hall of the Parliament of Religion. Sometimes I used to write, just like Sri Krishna revealed his Vishwarupa to Arjuna in the battlefield. That is how Swamiji stood on that world platform and through his words unfolded before the humanity the Vishwarupa of India. How we could absorb all the religious factions which came to us, how we could treat them with all understanding, love and affection and sympathy, give them the place to flourish in our own land and make them feel comfortable and at home, not quarreling with them, not driving them away, but in every way giving them a new home away from home. That is the beauty of India. That is what Swamiji made the people there understand through his very short lecture. The first sign of India's renaissance showed itself in the hall of the Parliament of Religions. The leaky boat of Indian culture found her way once again back into the stream of international life. India is a country of superstition, of temples, snake charmers, all sorts of unwanted names were given to Indian culture and Indian civilization and Indian religion. Our boat had started leaking, as Swamiji repeatedly said, but he brought it back into the international waters, and people saw the beauty of that boat again. All this happened thanks to the fire and force with which the message came out of the realized master's mouth. Out of his declarations was formed a new wave of universal brotherhood, which drew into its vortex hundreds of men and women with rare Catholicity of ideas and universal vision. That is the time he grew into, Swamiji expanded into the Vishwabandhu, Vishwamitra. Not only he was a friend of Indians, from that time onwards, he became a friend of the West as well. Swamiji's appearance on the western horizon truly opened a floodgate of sympathy and understanding for India and her problems. In his own motherland, it ushered in a new era of pride and faith, strengthened the currents of nationalism, which were faintly making their appearance here and there, and truly laid the foundation for the struggle for independence that was soon to sweep over the country. The universal dimension of Swamiji, that is, now we have seen Vishwa, Bhanu, Vishwa Mitra or Vishwa Bandhu. Now he raises himself further, the universal dimension. He becomes a universal guru. The universal dimension of Swamiji is what makes him truly appealing to the conservative East and the technologically advanced West. The seeker in him could accept no superstitions or superimpositions. He could be satisfied only by truth and truth alone. And the search for truth brought him to his great master, also compelled him to accept and appreciate the truth in every religion and philosophy. Like his great master, he did not do any experiment on himself, but his mind was so expansive and universal in its dimensions, he could easily absorb unto him great thinkers, scientists, philosophers, without any quarrel. Only if they were selfish in their motivation, only then there was a quarrel with Swamiji. Anybody who was ready to expand through understanding, through love, through knowledge, he was always a great master. He could absorb them. He could intuitively understand and appreciate the truth of all religions and philosophies. See, that is the beauty of the Indian understanding. Dhyanavastita tadgatena manasa. Because India has perfected the technique of Dhyana Yoga, through Dhyana, you can immediately touch the truth, realize the truth, not only in religion or philosophy, but in every situation. Today we need lawyers, judges, courts, Supreme Courts, but for a truly revealed person, truth is clear as anything. So that is what Swamiji was. Then, as I said, what agitated him or irked him was man's submission to his weaknesses. He didn't want man to be weak. Each soul is potentially divine. He went on giving this message to each and everyone. Tishtara Jagrata. So, lack of faith in himself, consequent fear in the human being, that is what agitated him, if at all. He exhorted his countrymen all the time to shake off this great fear and establish supremacy in their innate divinity. See, our Mahārshis has given us Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi, etc. But we do not try to realize it, absorb it, make it part of our comprehension, so that when we look at the world, we realize we are one. So, to that extent, Swamiji wanted all of us to elevate ourselves to be acquainted with at least this knowledge, the potential divinity within, and then look at the world. That each soul is potentially divine, for him was not a verbal assertion, but a reality that he lived every moment of his life. At the same time, was he only a philosopher? No. The sufferings of his fellow countrymen, their poverty and misery, moved him immensely, and he exhorted his disciples to first feed the poor and then preach Vedanta. That is what makes Swami Vivekananda stand out, because knowledge is all right, realization is all right, but what about the suffering humanity? So your first concern should be to see God in them. Serve man, serve God. To serve man and through him fulfill your understanding and realization of the truth. Breaking the myth of traditional role of the Indian monk who spent his time seeking his personal salvation, Swamiji created a new order of monks based on renunciation and service. He went on emphasizing that renunciation and service are the ideals of our nation. We should never leave them. You can see that anybody who has left these two principles, they may shine for some time, but then, like a firefly, they disappear. But where renunciation and service are combined, tena tyaktena bhunjita, where the great Upanishadic ideal has been put into practice, there we find the new meaning of Vedanta and day-to-day life. The establishment of Ramakrishna Mission, apart from Ramakrishna Mutt, is thus a glorious tribute to Swamiji's compassion and for suffering humanity. So, when we think of Swamiji, we get by heart Swamiji's quotations, we teach our children to recite it, we allow them to dress up like Swamiji and give his quotations, but that is not enough. Swamiji represented India not as a delegate going to UN and delivering a lecture. Swamiji, through his Bharata Parikrama, had understood the soul of our great nation. To him, India was not the geographical structure, not the temples and other things which are tourist attractions today, but that's the great soul of India. What is that soul? That soul is discovery of the one truth. Truth is one. Ekam Sat Vipra Bhudha Vadanti. What a wonderful ideal we have in front of us. Sri Ramakrishna in his own simple way says, one may call water, one may call it jal, one may call it pani, one may call it tirtha. But water is the same, and its role is to quench our thirst. So this sort of an expansiveness should come to us. So, through this brief introduction, I have tried to give the multi-dimensional personality of Swamiji. See, in one Malayalam poet has written a few lines on Swamiji. I will quote it in Malayalam first and then translate it into English. That personality, that divine personality, I think after Sri Krishna, I think Swamiji is the next one who has been universally attractive. Nadappu kandalu sarvabhauman, iruppu kandalu simhatulyan, swaram shalichalu velunali, padam pidichalu kalpavriksham. Great poet has written about Swamiji. As he walks, it was as though an emperor is walking. As he sits, it was like not a human being sitting. It was a great lion who was sitting. And when he starts speaking, you hear the mellifluous sound of a flute. And of course, if you go to him for shelter, touch his feet, his blessings will make your life complete with everything that you need in life. That was Swamiji. Today, our youth have no role model. All the models which they find in the day-to-day transactions just fail to inspire them. The words they speak, the lessons they teach, nothing has any real juice in it. Once you read a lesson of history of India, our blood should boil. Once you read a shloka from our great Ramayana or Mahabharata, we should feel proud that we belong to such a culture. So there is so much through Swamiji to learn about India. It is why Swamiji told people, if you want to love me, you can love me only in one way. To love India. Love India. Love India means India in totality. So that is our India. We have to impart to our children, through the love of Swamiji, a love for India and her culture. Our children should be able to say like Swamiji, I'm proud to belong to a nation which has taught the humanity the value of truth, value of harmony of religions. Our children should understand all that, but where are they now? So that is how we thought we shall not spare any effort in imparting our little understanding to the new generation. We were not very happy with the answers we received from the teachers and other people who wrote about our love India and Swamiji as Swamiji loved her. So there is a lacuna of understanding. Just not casually reading Vivekananda literature, but giving in your mind a sort of a personal fixed deposit of Swamiji and his love for India and the love for Indian culture. Let us see whether these efforts, we have invited quite a few leading speakers to speak on Swamiji so that the new generation will stand inspired. So with these few words, I shall come to the conclusion of this session.